We have many things in the pipeline right now, but
can you tell a little bit, like a little tease?
I wish I could. I can tell you that there is one artist who bought a Martin guitar from a widow in California, and the guitar is like a 00045, and it's it's very beautiful guitar. It's never left the state of California, and he really would like to do an edition with that.
Oh wow!
And so under very strict guidelines, his friend is bringing it to us next week, and we're going to do like an edition of for him, but also make it more of an authentic piece. Yeah, so that should be fun. You'll be like, oh, I know who he's talking about.
You cannot tell which artist. Gitaarmannen, the podcast. Welcome. This episode today, I have a special guest. We are on the Guitar Summit. I have the honor to have Teel here from Martin Guitars, head
Hello.
chief of design. First, I always start with going back to the youth of the guest.
Yes.
And the one special moment you first heard the guitar, saw the guitar, the first time you were mesmerized. Can you take us back?
I can remember it like it was yesterday. Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to live across the street from my grandfather. And my grandfather was an avid musician. He could play anything by ear. And his first guitar was a Martin D35 built as an employee model. So he started working there in 1966.
Okay.
And the guitar was built in 67. So as I grew up, I would visit with him quite frequently, being so close, and I would hear him play guitar, and that was my first memory.
What kind of guitar playing, how would you describe his guitar playing style?
Bluegrass.
Bluegrass?
Loved bluegrass.
Oh, yeah. Wow, yeah.
So, of course, it didn't stop with the guitar, went to the banjo, the fiddle, even harmonica. And so he really did enjoy mandolin. He really did enjoy the whole spectrum of that bluegrass style music. In fact, when he died, I believe he had close to 1,000 records, LPs, that he collected his whole life.
Did he also perform?
He did, but when I was young, by that time he quit performing, right? And he worked at the factory, at the Martin factory. And so, he would always tell me, as soon as you hear a Martin guitar, you'll know it, right? And I can still hear that D35.
Yeah. How would you describe that sound?
Just rich, full. Every note just seemed to jump out of the guitar.
Effortless.
Effortless, yeah. And that was the first guitar I learned to play on when I got older. So, 12, 13 years old, right? Started showing me some stuff on that guitar.
Yeah.
So I think the bar was set pretty high for me tonally early on. So, yeah.
So it's pretty special that your grandfather worked at Martin, and now you yourself are working at Martin. So almost feels like family business, maybe.
It does, yeah. In fact, I remember just growing up, the company at that time was maybe not doing so well, and they weren't really hiring anybody. And after graduating high school, my career path was set down the construction path.
Yeah.
And I worked in construction for about a year, maybe a little less. And he had mentioned, they're starting to hire at Martin, and if you want to get your foot in the door, now's a good time. So I went in.
What time was that?
It was 1986. Yeah. So, in fact, I went for a job interview, and I walk up to the front door, and there's a little old man in front of me, and he's walking up very slowly. And he opens the door and he says, "Welcome to Martin Guitar." And here it was Chris Martin's grandfather, CF the third. So it was really cool. And I remember him still being there for the first year or two I was working. Yeah. And he'd walk around every day. He'd walk around the whole factory. And he was in his 90s at that point. Yeah. And my grandfather, he He worked there for probably 2 or 3 years after I started. And then unfortunately he came down with some esophageal cancer and had to retire early and then, passed away soon after. But we did have a nice period of time.
So is there a connection between your grandfather worked there? You said the grandson of Chris Martin worked there.
Right.
Are there more like family ties?
That's it for me. So just my grandfather, but there are plenty of people who work there who have deep family connections in different areas. There's 3 or 4 families I can think of that have probably multiple generations, and working there currently probably 4 to 6 people from the family at the same time.
That's pretty special. And let's zoom out a bit. How big is the Martin company?
Okay, so in Nazareth we employ around, I'd say 550 people, somewhere in that neighborhood. And we also have a very nice operation in Mexico. And that workforce fluctuates a little bit, but there's somewhere around the same amount of people.
Okay, so it's not like thousands and thousands of people working there. So
no,
it's a fair. Everyone knows each other, looks out after each other, maybe.
Yeah, and in more recent years, we have folks retiring always, right? You have some folks leaving for other opportunities, and we have a lot of new people coming in. So what's fascinating for me personally is to remember the old people who were there and see them retire and move on to retirement. And also see some of the new people come in, and you can tell they have that same passion for the instrument. And then as they grow in the company, they develop a passion and a respect for the company as well.
They are cut out of the right wood.
Yes, so to speak, yes.
Yeah. Let's talk about your passion for the guitar for a moment. Did you ever have like the ambition to be a performer yourself or be on stage?
I did a little bit of that early on. We when I was much younger, we did a little bit of band stuff, played out a couple times. But my passion is in not only the building of the guitar, but truly in making it better.
Yeah.
And that's where I get excited is, okay, this is great. I love this, but how can I make it better?
Yeah. Can you remember the first guitar you ever built?
Yes, it was an electric banjo with my grandfather.
To start with?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the idea, because he was into bluegrass so heavily, and of course I liked rock and roll, right? So I think my first electric guitar they bought me was a Harmony, electric solid body, and then as soon as I started learning on that. Around that same time, back in the late 70s, early 80s, Martin developed an electric line of guitars. EM18, EM28s, right?
Ah, I did not know that.
Yeah, and my grandfather, because he worked there, he got a nice price on an EM18. So that was my first good electric guitar, so that was really cool.
And did you, when you got that guitar in hand, were like, okay, this can be better, or are you always busy with when you have a guitar in hand? What can be done better?
Well, it's on the acoustic side. Of course, it's always, how does the guitar play? Is it set up right? And then as you get into making the guitar and you understand what effect certain brace changes do to the sound. Okay, now you start experimenting, and you're always into that, So I've done so much of that my whole life. Now, we still are refining. The refinements, I believe, are incremental, they're smaller, but still they add up over time,
Yeah, so you can say that guitars that were made in like the 1980s, if you compare them to now, do you see big changes, or are that like from small incremental changes?
From the 1980s, I think there are huge changes.
What is the most significant change?
I think, number one, the way we're bracing, our setups, our playability, much different than a guitar from the 1970s or 80s, And, it's funny because, what's considered the golden era of guitar building is that 1930 to 1940, right? That's the pinnacle of guitar design. And along the way, some of those guitars developed issues because they were using heavy gauge strings. And they don't even make heavy gauge strings anymore, right? Mm-hmm. And the heavy gauge strings, to get that volume out to the audience, would start, deforming tops, right, and become a problem. So to fix some of those things, they started adding, to the instrument. So, the front blocks changed, this changed, that changed. And so by the time you hit the 1980s, and you no longer had scallop bracing, right? Scallop bracing was a thing of the past. And now you had a guitar that was a little bit heavier. The adjustability of the truss rod wasn't there either. That just started coming on. So, there's been multiple changes. But when we started with the D1 back in the 1990s, it was an effort to really start refining the tone. And, everybody would know a scallop brace guitar would sound better than a non-scallop brace guitar. And that D1 was an exercise into seeing how far it could go and what the sound quality was. So, it just started from there. And today, you can look at our product line as the Modern Deluxe. And that's a great marriage of new and old technology. Yeah. So I don't know if you're familiar with Modern Deluxe at all.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So, back in the 1930s and 40s, they didn't have carbon fiber materials. No. So we're using that for a composite bridge plate, which is lighter and stiffer and gets more output and more sustain compared to a maple bridge plate. Yeah. We're also torifying our vintage tone system for the top and the bracing, which, kind of acts as a time machine. So you're taking brand new wood and you're pre-aging it, to about 70 to 100 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And how we know that is because you can, under a microscope, you can see what an old piece of wood looks like. And then we have a special process that takes the new wood until, it looks the same visually.
Under the microscope.
And tap tone, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So then you have best of both worlds.
You do. And so, other advancements along the way for tone would be like the liquid metal bridge pins. And, the liquid metal bridge pin is interesting because if you think about where the ball end of the string anchors, it's right on the bridge pin. And it's wedged between the bridge pin and the bridge plate, right? Mm-hmm. So we knew a long time ago by doing sound experiments that softer bridge pin materials change the tone of the guitar. It gets warmer, whereas harder materials, you get a brighter, more projective sound. And probably one of the most naturally occurring bridge pins would be like a very hard bone,
Ivory.
Even bone's better. Bone's a little harder. Ivory, because it's more of a tusk, it's more hair. Yeah. So it's a little bit softer, actually. But so a friend of mine introduced me to a company called Liquid Metal. And Liquid Metal produces an alloy, and their special part of their process is they cool the metal down before it can form a grain structure. And so now the material is amorphous, and it does not deform, so it stays very rigid. Yeah. And so any energy that goes into it actually is reflected close to like 90 to 99%.
That's amazing.
There's an online video, and you may want to share that with your folks.
I'll share it somewhere. You can click somewhere now.
But it really demonstrates the power of it. And what it is, there's 3 cylinders with a striking plate, one of titanium, one of liquid metal, and one of stainless steel.
Yeah.
And they use a steel ball and they drop the ball onto the striking plate. And you can see how long and how many times the ball bounces. And I don't want to spoil it for the viewers, but it's worth a watch because it's impressive. Yeah.
Oh wow! Yeah, so that are like the revolutionary things going on right now.
Correct.
In making the acoustic guitar sound even better.
That's right.
And let's step into a time machine.
Okay.
20, 30 years from now.
Right.
What are the biggest challenges you can see to make it even more better or different or?
That's a good question.
Is there a revolution coming? Because it's been like the same now.
Yeah.
For 100 years.
So
incremental changes, you said.
So we ask that question to ourselves every day. When we're contemplating a new product or series, is this an evolutionary process or is it going to be revolutionary? Right. Our SC guitar, which is a brand new platform, that's more revolutionary in terms of, yes, it's still an acoustic guitar, but it's focused on acoustic electric, and the playability of it is unmatched because the neck is now, it's still a dovetail neck, but it's a linear dovetail. So the neck is it's modular to remove the neck or insert the neck.
Oh.
And on the back of the guitar, there are two bolts that act as clamping bolts for the dovetail. So as you know, technically it's not a bolt-on neck because bolt-on necks, the screw penetrates the neck and is held in place.
Yeah, like the Echo guitars from Italy.
Yes.
Yeah.
This actually is a dovetail fit, and the dovetail itself is the clamp to hold it in. And there are elevation plates to change angle. So that way you can use the same bridge height and bridge saddle height to optimize it for the undersaddle pickup. And by doing that, you say you go to the music store and you say, oh, I like this guitar, but for me the action is a little too high, I'd like the action lower. Yes, we could loosen the strings, loosen the bolts, remove the elevation plate, put in the other size, and tighten everything back up, and here you go, right? Yeah. So you can do a neck fit in literally 2 minutes.
That's better than what I had a couple of last year. Like, okay, I need a little bit lower action. Okay, my luthier did it. It was just a little bit too far,
Yep.
A little bit. It's like, okay, but I need a guitar now. Okay. I'll take it. I'll come back. I'll come back.
Yeah.
So that's really handy.
Yeah, it is. And the neck profile, we came up with a brand new neck shape, and it's an ergonomically shaped neck. So when you're playing cowboy chords, or you're trying to wrap your thumb around up first, second fret, it's shaped for your hand, so you can do that easily. As you start making bar chords and going down, it feels more symmetrical. And then as you get down to play leads, then it rotates the other way, the barrel. So you get more access to the...
So you are like looking for what does the player need?
That's right.
The specific things the player needs according to his hands.
That's right.
When you're like John Mayer, for instance, and
that's
you have
right.
like these kind of big hands.
Yes.
You can wrap your finger, your thumb around the neck like so, but I have these small hands. I only have big feet. It's
tough.
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough. So that will be great for me.
Yes.
Like if I want to play neon.
Right. You could. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a revolution.
Yes.
Yeah. So is that something then that you can go to the music store and that like the product specialist over there can see, okay, you have not the biggest hands.
Right.
I have this neck for you.
Yes. So, but that neck is currently only available on our SC product line. So, we have SC13, right? SC10. We have some special models, and we just introduced last year the custom shop out of Nazareth, SC 2022, which is a model year. So moving forward in the future, you will see SC in the standard line.
Yeah.
And also with Nazareth-made SCs, we're adding in a little bit more bass response. And how we're doing that is we have a new patented process which we call an internal recurve. And what it is when the top is being machined, we will flip it face side down. We will take a router, a CNC router, and carve out a little bit around the base part of the lower bout, just to give it some more flexibility. And then that gives you that nice deeper growl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. And neck-wise, is it something you will be putting onto the more premium models, or is it something that when talking to artists for like artist signature models, something you take into account? So we also have this. We can use this, or
yeah, sure. So it's that neck shape we developed for the SC has been exclusive to that body size for right now, but that is an option, and someday I could see it being requested, for an artist.
Because it's in essence a traditional world.
That's true.
The guitar
That's
world.
True.
It's
very traditional. Yeah.
In a way, but yeah.
But things that work, they work, right?
They work.
So people just tend to, oh, this is new. This works for me.
They need to get over the idea of that it's new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also, we do realize that not one size fits all, right?
Yeah.
So I think the nice thing with the SC line is it's more customizable to you as a player, And if you go in and you play it and it fits you great, awesome. You're good to go. And I think that's what a lot of people tend to do with guitar selection anyway, right?
Yeah.
You go and you play a dreadnought, you love a dreadnought. It fits you, it fits your style. But maybe this other person over here, that they're going to want a triple O or a double O, for what they do, and it makes sense for them. And then you have, like most of us, we have multiple needs and multiple guitars, right? So
never-ending need for more guitars.
This is true. Yes, it's a sickness.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about the artist signature models, because you are involved with with that process. How does that go? What is the point in an artist's career that they are eligible for a Martin signature guitar? Because me myself, I own the Eric Clapton signature.
Sure.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It sounds great, and I can understand Eric Clapton having a signature Martin. What are the standards?
It does vary from artist to artist, of course, and Martin being a premium company, we're looking for premium artists, obviously. We do have a lot of artist ambassadors that we support, but they don't have their signature model. So signature models are sort of rare, and reserved for people who are at the top of their genre, We recently did a Brooke Ligertwood guitar, and that's more of a contemporary Christian singer-songwriter. And it was interesting working with her, because she had a very specific thoughts around, the size and kind of how she plays. So she came in for a visit. We had a great meeting with her. And we did offer up some of the features we're doing on Modern Deluxe, which she really liked. Yeah. So the two came together.
And it's a symbiosis of the two worlds.
And it came to be a very nice model. John Mayer, as you mentioned before. Yeah. He's been under the Martin brand for 20 years now.
20 years.
It's crazy, right?
How time flies. Yeah.
So I remember working on the very first model we did with him, and he really liked that border around the bridge, right? So as we're talking with him to try to figure out, like, okay, this is your 20th anniversary, how do you want to make it special? And one of the features that he really wanted to explore further is that silver color border around the pickguard and the fingerboard and the bridge, obviously. And we've upgraded that material from just an aluminum to a fine silver, so it won't tarnish. And it looks amazing. The guitar came out very well. For the LM45, John Mayer 20th anniversary.
Yeah.
And then he also wanted to do something, with the OMJM, because the OMJM has been in our line for 20 years. And he's like, let's make that special too. So, that has the same aesthetic qualities to it without the cumbersome inlays, the time-consuming inlays. And it's going to be a great guitar as well.
It's only going to be produced for 1 year, right? That's
correct, yeah.
That's the exclusive part of
That's right.
of the guitar.
Yeah. So we talked about, do we want to do a number, like a limited number? And there wasn't anything like that worked that would make sense. So it was his suggestion, actually, that we let it run for 1 year, and that would be the anniversary year.
And how does that process go of building that guitar?
Yeah.
I can imagine you guys in the factory and the offices being all busy with that and emailing back and forth with John Mayer or with his management. How does it go?
We have typically one point of contact with the artist. And in this case, it was our VP of product, who is Fred Green. He's had a long-standing relationship with John. So he was the main contact, and then we would, based off of those conversations, put together some samples, get those off.
Yeah.
And,
So it's a direct line.
Yes,
to the signature artist.
That's correct. And then, for other artists, we do have an artist relation team. So that's 2 folks, and then they typically, Rory Glass, he'll work with artists in general.
Yeah.
And, we have many things in the pipeline right now. But
can you tell a little bit, like a little tease?
I wish I could. I can tell you that there is one artist who bought a Martin guitar from a widow in California, and the guitar is like a 0045, and it's it's very beautiful guitar. It's never left the state of California, and he really would like to do an edition with that.
Oh wow!
And so under very strict guidelines, his friend is bringing it to us next week, and we're going to do like an edition of, for him, but also make it more of an authentic piece. Yeah, so that should be fun.
So the guitar will be brought over next week, and then your
and
guys
then we start
will
our process.
Oh yeah, then it's okay. How does this guitar look? Will it be torn apart?
No.
But how do you know then how it's built?
So we measure.
Cameras.
We measure. Yeah, we have tools where we can measure the thickness of the top in different areas, and it works off of a magnet, And then we also have a digitizing tool for the neck, so we're able to scan the neck and get the exact shape, so we can figure out how to do that.
Yeah, amazing process. I can imagine.
Pretty cool.
You cannot tell which artist it.
You'll find out.
Find out. Okay.
You'll find out. You'll be like, oh, I know who he's talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Sorry, guys. Sorry. One thing I was wondering, when you have like an artist like Eric Clapton,
right?
What I'm so like mind blown about is that he plays his own signature model.
Yeah.
Like right from the shop, right?
Yeah.
He does not have he plays really the instruments that are sold in the in the shop.
It's not like we're doing anything special for him. Now he does have a guitar tech, right? So his guitar tech, I'm sure, sets the guitar up for him personally.
Yeah.
But it is literally the one you would pick off the shelf in the store. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I find that mind blowing. And how is the moment when you guys are all busy on this instrument and okay, we think it's done. Let's send it to John.
Right.
Does he come to the factory to play it for the first time?
No.
That would be quite awkward. I had this whole thing in my head. He coming in, everyone's like, "Oh no, and John, how do you like it?" Yeah.
He has been to the factory many times, especially earlier in his career, and he has, we've sat down and he's sampled many guitars, over time. But he's very detail oriented, and he knows what he likes, and as we go through the process, things kind of evolve as we go. And at the end of the day, 100% this guitar was, John Mayer's thoughts and
I think I do not know him. I only know him from being a big fanboy for years. That he is very on the details.
Yes, yeah.
So I can imagine the process from going to the idea to the end product being a bumpy ride, maybe, or
I wouldn't say bumpy. I would say because I enjoy all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy any challenge, right? When it comes to guitar design, and so for me, it's just fascinating, because you present something. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I love this, but hey, can we think about changing these, few things? And before you know it, it has evolved into something much different than what our thoughts were in the beginning.
And does the artist ever ask you a question and you're like, how are we going to make this happen?
No, that's up to us to worry about. So, they have the ideas, and it's up to us to get those ideas executed somehow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got to know Martin a little bit better.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Tim.
Oh, you're very welcome. It was a pleasure having some time with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
likewise.
Everybody out there, thank you.
Dankjewel voor het kijken naar Gitaarmannen de podcast. En nu je hier toch bent, vergeet je niet te abonneren in je favoriete podcast app. En druk op het belletje, want dan krijg je een melding zodra ik weer een nieuwe aflevering online heb gezet. Je kan trouwens ook gitaarvriend worden via petjeaf.com/Struijlaart of rechtstreeks via Spotify. Dit kost je €2 per maand. Dat is gelijk aan een kopje koffie of een biertje per maand.
Nice.
Daarmee support je je favoriete gitaarpodcast en geef je mij de kans er meer tijd en energie in te steken, zodat de podcast ook vaker kan verschijnen. Alle afleveringen van Gitaarmannen de podcast vind je terug in deze playlist. En je weet het, blijven kijken, blijven luisteren, blijven spelen.